Okay, thank you for coming. Just to let you know that we are recording for the people that have registered but couldn't make it today. Um, I think I know everybody who's here live, so I'm going to introduce myself, but obviously not for you because you already know who I am. So I'm Andy Stevenson. I am one of the co-founders of Reverse Ret. I'm also parent to Beth, who is 25 this year, and Amber, who is 30. And I'm the head of fundraising, clinical trial lead, and anything else that needs doing that I can help with at Reverse Ret. And this is the second Art of Fundraising workshop that I've done. It's actually a year since the first one, which feels like 5 minutes, especially now that I'm looking at the slides again. I am going to try and mix it up a little bit, but I would welcome interruptions if anybody has questions as I'm going along, or whether you want to wait till the end, or if you've got anything that you want to share about your own fundraising, it would be good to hear from you. So let's get going. So these two girls are my inspiration for doing this job and also for doing my own fundraising, which I always feel is separate from the job because it's something that keeps me sane. I told Beth when she was 5, which was 2005, that I would do anything that I could to help improve her life as she got older. At that point, it's felt like an empty promise because nothing really was happening. But then in 2007, the reversal experiment happened in Edinburgh, and we've gone on from there to the point where we're at now. So my fundraising began before then. I started with the London Marathon in 1999. I'm just looking at this picture. It looks like I might have a wig on actually, but I was definitely in bold denial at that point. So I was fundraising for a cot death charity because my nephew had died a year previous to this, and it was my very first experience of fundraising, and I sort of got the bug from that very first go. I hated the run, but I liked the fundraising part of it, and doing something, in a situation where you feel very, very helpless. It felt as though I was making some kind of small difference. So it was very different back then, obviously, with fundraising. It was the basic sponsor form. I didn't even have a computer at the time. I know the internet had even started then, but I didn't have a clue what it was. So it was a case of asking people. I had a fundraising target, with it being a London Marathon, that was over £1,000, which felt quite daunting at the time. But fortunately, I got around 2,000 with that first effort, just from asking people with a form in my hand. And in a lot of ways, I still think that's one of the best ways to fundraise. The picture on the right is the latest fundraiser that I did, which was a few months ago in Warrington, pushing and pulling a sled for 24 hours. So it's been 25 years, over 25 years now since I started, which is frightening because it feels like it's gone in the blink of an eye. So moving on from there, I did another fundraiser for a cot death charity, a 24-hour golf. And this is where I did really well with fundraising at the beginning, because being a golf pro and being in a golf shop a lot of the time, I had a captive audience. So I had a sponsorship on the desk 24 hours of every day, 365 days a year. And people would just come in and write the name down and throw some cash at me, or occasionally wait till I've done it to make sure that they'd actually got the money's worth. But it was very, very easy in a way. I didn't really have to sell myself. And also because it was there all the time, people would give, and then a few months later would forget and give again. And sometimes people would give once a month and say it was like their direct debit and their contribution to the cause. So it was a really good time for fundraising. I raised a lot of money in that time. Um, and then with the start of the internet, well, social media mainly, um, it suddenly became very different again. And especially for me, because suddenly I wasn't working with anyone other than Rachel. Um, so I didn't really have anyone to ask whenever I did a challenge or did some fundraising. So I had to change. I spent many, many years when people came in and asked me about Beth into the golf shop, how was she doing and all the rest of it. And I basically stuck my head in the sand and just said, yeah, she's fine. She's got a mild version of Rett syndrome. She's doing all right. And didn't really go into any detail. Now, that was fine because, you're face to face with someone, they can probably see the despair in your face, in your eyes, which I probably didn't know at the time, but I can see now looking back. Um, So when you're on the internet and you're not seeing anybody face to face and there's no one to ask, you have to get very, very creative. And that was a huge learning curve for me. So from probably 2010 and then 2012, especially once I'd left golf, um, I really had to think and change the way that I raised money. And fortunately, the things that I've done in that time has meant that I've carried on raising a similar amount of money as I did before. So there hasn't really been a drop off, even though I don't really see people face to face in the same way now. So I'm just going to spend the rest of this session talking about how I've managed to do that, what has worked for me, maybe a few things that hasn't worked for me, and hopefully it will help all of you when it comes to the time that you decide to do some fundraising and you were maybe a little bit nervous about it, worrying if people will support you, whether anyone will take any notice. Um, so we'll move on to social media. Now, I've done quite a lot of social media training now, all with Alex from Altrincham HQ, and I've got another session booked, mainly because with social media, some of you'll already know that things are changing all the time. The algorithms change, how people see things, how people view things, finding out the behaviors of people when they go onto social media, and think about your own behavior. Think about how you look. I mean, people go on the phones normally and scroll, and if they see something that they feel attracted to, they'll like it, or maybe even click on it and read it. Although I'm not sure that happens as much these days. People can't be bothered reading anything and just skim the headlines. So you've got to be very careful about how you do it and what you put out. Um, so when you go onto social media and you're going to put something out about your challenge, you've got to understand, first of all, that only a very small percentage of your friends are going to see it. That first post, it's something like between 19 and 21% of your friends. So say you've got 1,000 friends, that's not a lot of them that's seen it. In my case, I would imagine with all the fundraising I've done and all the times I've shared things, I've got a lot of my friends, which at the moment are around 1,100, who have probably unfollowed me for various reasons. It might be the fundraising, um, it might be my politics, it might be my football team, it might be my shiny bald head, it could be anything. But people will have unfollowed you. So not everyone is going to see your posts. So you've got to be very, very, well, prolific with your posting. And you've got to do it in the right way. There's no point in just sharing a link, for example. You've got to put something out there that grabs people, gets people looking on, and also doesn't get bumped away by the algorithms of Facebook or Instagram. Um, and the way to do that is to share engaging pictures, first of all, pictures of your child or the child that you're fundraising for, close-ups, um, videos, mix it up, training pictures, training videos, talking about the things that affect the person that you care about with Rett syndrome, making it personal. Basically, you can sum it up in one line. You've got to tell your story. If you don't tell your story, why is anyone going to be interested? There's a million fundraising pages on people's just giving on people's social media feeds. So you've got to make yours stand out and make people want to read it, and then you've got to make them want to give. And sometimes that can take a lot of posting. So I would say I start my fundraising pages quite early in the year and start off slowly talking about training and talking about why I'm doing another challenge. Um, the story really doesn't change. I made that promise all those years ago that I'd do what I could do to improve the life of Beth, and now everyone else with Rett syndrome. And that story's still exactly the same today. We're not there yet. We've made massive strides. There's a lot more going on in the world of research, there's clinical trials, as a lot of you will know. But we still haven't got any treatments in the UK. So the job is only half done, really. So I start off slowly, one post a week, maybe even less. And then as we get close to the challenge, I just up the posts. And I find it helps me if I'm training for something. I've got music on, but I'm also thinking the whole time while I'm running or walking or whatever it is I'm doing. I'm thinking about what spin I can put on my next post to make people read it, and more importantly, to make people give some money. Um, and I quite enjoy doing that. Not everyone is comfortable with it. I wasn't comfortable with it. You have to share a lot, and you have to open yourself up. And it's not often it's not easy to do. But if you want to make a difference and you want to raise as much as you can, it's the only way. Um, but I just wanted to touch this slide that's on now. The money that's been raised for reverse Rett in that time since we launched, it has come from 80% of it has come from people like you, community fundraising, people doing what they can, and that can be anything. So I've got this one on the right hand side, which is from 2010. This post that we put out. It was a guy that I used to see in the golf shop who made cakes. He was an expert cake maker, and he made this cake, and he raffled it, and it raised, I think it was 60 quid. But because all your faces are on that side of the screen, I can't actually read the whole thing. But that £60 put alongside the middle picture, which is from last year when a team did the Jurassic Coast, that team raised around 40,000 pounds. That added to the picture on the left, which is a newly diagnosed family who did a run in October last year and raised a couple of £1,000. You've got three different pictures there, and they've all raised different amounts. And it's important to understand that the amounts don't really matter. It's the effort of the team. The more people that fundraise, the more money we're going to raise when it's all put together. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. And this is just a thought that I had. If all our Facebook followers raise £50 a year, we would raise £616,000 in a year just from that one avenue, which is an incredible amount if you bear in mind that reverse Rett in total raises around 800,000 a year, and it's been quite static for quite a number of years now. If we could get more people involved, even in a small way, a couple of £100 here and there, it would make a huge difference to what we could fund and what we could do with that money. It's a constant battle to get the money for example, to fund the SIT Rett Centre. If we could get more people involved, that would take a lot of pressure off. It would allow us to do other things, and it also would allow us, which is what we did from when we started, which is fund basic science. There's still basic science going on. everybody hopes, and myself included, that gene therapy is going to be the answer. But there's things coming behind that that still need funding at the very basic scientific level that could give a better result than gene therapy. And that is the sort of thing that we would like to fund if we could raise more. And it's just about getting more people invested, understanding what we're trying to do and where we are, and then getting them out there and doing something. So this is my latest Just Giving page. I made it earlier this week. I've just put my first post on Facebook about half an hour ago. You've got your picture. I've put a picture of Amber and Beth close up, smiling. They've got big birthdays this year. So I'm going to have a big year of challenges. It's difficult sometimes when you've done as many pages as I have to think of something new to write. But I try and just make it as personal as I can, personal to me, to try and get people invested. And it's worked. You know, it's so humbling to think that these two women have inspired. We were talking about this earlier, actually, me and Rachel, about how much money I'd raised personally since I started all those years ago. And it's got to be close to $250,000. And most of that money has been raised because of these two children of mine, which is incredible. And it's an incredible, like, whatever happens, you know, from here, it's an incredible thing that they've done, that they've managed to make people give money to me on their behalf, because that's how it's happened, you know. So that's what I try and do when I'm setting up a page. I make sure the text touches a chord, hopefully, with people, touches the heart and makes them want to give. And as I say, and I'll show you a few examples in a minute, you have to get creative and you have to open up. You don't have to. If you don't open up, you just won't raise as much. And personally, if I'm going to do an ultra this year, I want to raise as much as I can. You know, if it turns out that that's only 500 quid, I'll be happy. But I want to raise as much as I possibly can through putting myself through, you know, a long winter of training and then the horrendous thought of running 100K, which is just terrifying. Having walked 100K, I can't even imagine doing it. But, you know, these are what these girls have got me doing. So this is just, I'm just going to show you a few different posts that I've done over the years. Always try and bring it back to something that Amber or Beth is going through or something that's happened in the community. You know, I've had some people, we've lost some people who were really close to us over the last 12 months, especially, and longer. And they really do keep me going, you know, thinking about them and what their families put into fundraising for Reverse Ret. And some of them still are, you know, it keeps me going, keeps me committed to the cause. Also, meeting all these young children who are tiny, who I don't think will have the same journey as Amber and Beth have had. Making a difference for them is what gets me up in the morning. You know, most of my training is done early morning. I hate getting out of bed. I hate it, but I do it. And I think of these people that we've lost and these people that are only 2, 3, 4 years old now, as well as my own two. And it gets me out and it gets me motivated. So talked a little bit here about Amber's CHC funding, just bringing it back to what it costs Reverse Ret, 400K a year to fund just on its own to fund the Ret Centre, and how important it is that we keep raising that money to keep it going. You don't have to make it all not depressing, but heartrending. You can also share posts that are a little bit more fun, a little bit funnier. The one on the left was just before the London Marathon, and I remember that getting me a lot of sponsor donations. That post, I think there was something a bit more graphic with an actual picture of the bleeding, but I thought I'd save that from you, although I haven't saved you from my feet, which they are horrendous. I mean, they look quite good in this picture. I'm quite happy with them there. They look worse at the moment, I've got to say. Um, but you've got to mix it up, put different things out, get people engaged. The more people that engage with your post, the more people's news feeds it appears on. So if you get 50 likes, it's going to be widely seen. Um, if you share your link to your Just Giving page with no text and just the link, Facebook will go, we don't want you going off our site. So we're not going to show this to anyone. So I see quite often where people share things, even if it's just, something from the reverse rep page or from my own page. If you share something on social media without putting some of your own text and your own thoughts on, no one will engage, no one will see it. So that's number one thing to remember for everyone who does their fundraising through social media. Make sure you put your own opinion on something if you're sharing something. And when you're putting your own things out, use a picture, put the link at the bottom of the text, or you can even put the link in the comments, which is what a lot of, if you notice on social medias, Facebook especially, a lot of the newspapers now, they put the links in the comments to ensure that they get maximum coverage, because it's a little bit of a trick to get around the algorithms of Facebook. So this was another post that I did last year. It was just about something exciting that happened rather than something that was upsetting or harrowing. About when Amber drove a wheelchair. It was scary at the time, but it was really funny and heartwarming to see her actually moving herself. So, as I said, mix it up. Now, this one was probably still the best post reaction I ever had um, in all the years I've been doing this. And it was the first time I'd opened up about my own mental health problems. Um, wasn't an easy thing to do, but I think if you don't say something and you don't tell people how you're feeling, it's doing a disservice to all the parents out there who will feel like I did during that time in 2013. So I opened up, I told everyone how I was feeling or how I felt then and how I'd come out the other side. And um, got a lot of people looking at the post and sharing the post, importantly, and also a lot of donations. So another thing for you to think about when you're doing your fundraising, who do you know? Who do you know who owns a company or works at a company that chooses a charity of the year? This is a picture of Lily and her mum and dad with a company that her dad works for, who did a cycle ride last year as a team from Warrington, where one of their offices, their regional office was, back down to London, raising over 60,000. And these things, they just pop up from nowhere a lot of the time. I don't even think that the family had approached the company and said, would you like to do any fundraising for Reverse Rep? They just saw what Jane and Georgie were going through and decided that they wanted to do something. So think about who you know and who can help, and then don't be afraid to ask. You can ask, someone says no, and you say thanks anyway. It's as easy as that. If you're scared to ask for something, you'll never get anything. Or if you do get anything, it's sporadic and just luck, really. And you can make your own luck by just thinking about who you know and who could help in some way. So if you've never done any fundraising before, can be quite scary, especially when you don't know what you're doing, you don't know where to start. Um, and worst of all, you think, well, what if I do something and nobody turns up? What if I do something and nobody sponsors me? And to be fair, that does happen. Sometimes people set up a birthday fundraiser on Facebook and they don't get any any money on it whatsoever. In fact, there's more with zero on our Facebook fundraisers for birthdays than anything else. And a lot of the time it's because people are shy and they don't want to share it. So they set the page up and then leave it. If you set the page up and then leave it, no one's going to see it. So no one's going to sponsor you. So you've got to, if you're new to it, you've got to be out there. You've got to be bold. You've got to remember how you're doing it, why you're doing it. Um, and what I always go back to, because I hear this every week, often every day, fundraising fatigue. What is fundraising fatigue? Um, I don't know what fundraising fatigue is. I don't know how to describe it, but I know what Rett syndrome fatigue is. And I know that everyone who has Rett syndrome is fatigued of it. They've had enough of it. There's no doubt about that. And I've had enough of it, and all parents have had enough of it, and every family member who gets involved with a child with Rett syndrome has had enough of it. That's a given. So there's Rett syndrome fatigue. Fundraising fatigue, I think it comes back to this. People think, I've asked once, I can't ask again. You can. I have. I do. I don't care. I don't care if somebody gets, oh God, he's not doing something else, is he? Or, no, that's all he goes on about. This is my child. So I really don't care. If me asking for help offends people, then that's fine. I don't expect everyone to give. I don't expect a big proportion of Facebook friends to give. I don't expect family members to give every time. But if they can, I'm very, very happy to accept it on behalf of Reverse Ret. Um, so fundraising fatigue doesn't exist. People will give or they won't give. People will read it or they'll scroll past it. It's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. And no one in all this time that I've been doing it has ever said, "Oh God, you're not doing something else, are you?" They've never ever said that to me. Seriously, they've said it jokingly. "Oh, what are you doing now?" That sort of thing. And then in the next instance, they've made a donation. So I can't be upsetting them that much. That's the way I look at it. Um, so look into the eyes of your child, your niece, your nephew, your granddaughter, your grandson, and think to yourself, this is why I'm asking, and I'm going to keep asking until there's something better for them, because this living with syndrome stuff is just awful, and all these people deserve better than what they've got now. So what can you do? Well, you can literally do anything, as this picture shows. You can literally do anything. Um, there's all kinds of events and challenges. If you want to get fit and you want to do a 5K, 10K, whatever it is. If you want to hold a quiz night, if you want to have a cake bake at work, dress down day. There's millions of things you can do. And then there's also ridiculous things like lying in a bath of beans in a town centre while people point, laugh at you and put money in a box. So it doesn't matter what you do, just do something. And if that something raises 50 quid or 50,000, it doesn't matter. Because as we've seen, all this stuff where we've got to today has happened because of all these people doing these things. And a lot of them have been, you know, small things. The things that I enjoy doing now are team events. We've been doing team events for the last few years with Reverse Ret, and they are challenging, but they're great fun because you're meeting people who have the same mindset as you. Um, you can discuss, practical things that are happening at home, um, and you have a laugh. You have a meal the night before. You have a meal the night you've finished. This camaraderie is brilliant, and I'm hoping to do 4 or 5 this year. I've only signed up for 2 so far, but I've got more to do. Um, and I'd recommend them to anyone, especially anybody that is feeling low and down, trapped, stuck in a situation with their children that they need a break from. It really helps to just spend some time with other people who are in that situation as well, or have been in that situation in the past. And I don't think there's anyone, and there's a few of you on this call now who have done team challenges. I don't think there's anyone that's gone, oh my God, I hated it. I'm never doing that again. They might have thought that right at the end of doing a long walk or run, but it's worth it for what you get out of it. And so we've got loads and loads of team challenges on the website. Be great to see you on some of them. You won't regret it. And then try and make it as fun as possible. I've got some friends at Warrington Wolves. I've done quite a lot of fundraising with them in the past. Naked calendars and stuff like that when I was younger. But the last one was this pull and push, and it was 24 hours. It was quite miserable through the night, but a lot of people came down and helped, and we had a great time. So try and make it as fun as possible. Kylie was loving it. She came back about 4 times. I know she's in bed today with the camera turned off, not feeling well, so we won't see her, but she had a great time. She came down for an hour and then came back and then came back again the next morning. They are good fun, and there's good camaraderie and a good laugh, and everyone has a good time. And at the end of the day, it raised about £4,000, which was, which is at the end of the day is what it's all about. So I think I've waffled on enough. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Those of you who have registered who aren't here now, thank you. Hopefully you'll watch it. If you've got insomnia, I believe this will be good and will help you. And now I just want to ask if anybody has any questions about anything, or anyone wants to share anything about what they've done with their fundraising, what they found has worked and what hasn't worked, etc. So over to you all. Or I'll just go. Come on, don't be shy. Go ahead, Rachel.
Rachel, I don't think your mic's working.
I can hear you, but you're in the other room, so.
Put your question in the chat group, Rachel.
I can hear you, yeah. What Rachel's asking is, if you take on a challenge, especially a team challenge, can you get help with funding for it? And the answer is yes. Reverse Rep will cover the cost of your entry, which for something, say, is a 100k action challenge event is around 300 quid. Reverse Rep will pay that. You will raise more than 300 quid. Most charities put a figure on for people to have to reach to take up a place. We don't do that because we're all connected to someone with Rett syndrome, and we know that people do the best and will put as much effort in as they can. So we just say, do your best, and no one's let us down yet. So it's no problem at all for you to enter. If you're doing an action challenge event, you can click reverse rep when you're entering and just follow the steps through whichever event you're doing. If it's something through Run for Charity, which we have guaranteed places for as well, just contact me. They're all on the events and challenges page on our website. So if you have a look on there, if there's anything you can see on there that you fancy, then let us know. Tanya?
Sorry, I don't know what's happened. My camera's not working for some reason.
Right.
But
Your
yeah,
hands up though, so that's working.
I've obviously been able to listen to everything, so it's all fine. But yeah, I just can't seem to work it. No, I just wanted to share something from last year that I found, because obviously having done the skydive in 2023, I managed to raise quite a lot from that first fundraiser, and it sort of went viral. And then last year, obviously, when I was taking part in the team challenge, got started really early. Oh, hold on. I'm just getting. No, it's still not working. Sorry. Yeah. So, where was I? Yeah. So I got started really early. Set up a Just Giving page, and yeah, like posted my first Facebook post probably a couple of months before the challenge, maybe even longer. And I just wasn't getting any reach. And I remember I was talking to you about it, Andy, and it was like worrying me a little bit. And then I had a thought and I was like, actually, I think what I did was I made my first post way too wordy. And so there was probably a lot of people just scrolling past, eye rolling and not really wanting to really read it and yeah, and then click the link. So one thing that I did find that really might be out of people's comfort zone, but it wasn't out of mine, as you say. You know, I'm not going to worry if I offend people. I just spammed everyone. So I literally went into everyone's inboxes and was like, listen, I'm not getting reach. Can you like and share all my posts? And I did that. Actually, I did that from the link, from the Just Given link, which I know, yes, it completely, it's not visible, but actually having people do that made it visible. But I think actually in hindsight, what I could have done is just done a more personal one, done the link, and then had them, do you see what I mean? Had them, you know, share and like that one. And that worked. I found that I think in about 24 hours, I'd raised about £1,000 just doing that, just spamming people. So that was just a bit.
I've never actually done that where I've sent stuff to people's inboxes, but I'm
I
going
just
to do it
timing.
after you saying this. And I know you said it to me at the time, but I'm going to do that. You know, get
Yeah,
right
I
in
just
people's
went on loads of
faces.
groups.
Because I still get irritated sometimes when you see people commenting on your posts about how unbelievable you are, what an inspiration, and then have never sponsored me ever
Yeah.
in like the 15 years I've been on Facebook or the 18 years I've been on Facebook. And I make it a personal mission to try and get some of those people to sponsor me. And I had some success last year. I think 3 people who had commented for years finally sponsored me, and I was like punching the air. Um, but I'm going to go through my list of people and go, right, you're getting it. And so thanks for that. And
Yeah, it did really
you
help.
know,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, even though I've been doing this for so long, it's great to get people's feedback because there's always things you can do to improve and to do better. So thanks for sharing that.
Uh,
Okay.
We've got another question from Rachel. She says, what is the easiest way to raise money, especially if you don't want to do a physical challenge?
Um, donate your birthday, I think.
Yeah.
Donate your birthday is quite easy. Um, Sell it by putting things like if you saw me in the pub and it was my birthday, you'd buy me a pint. So stick that pint on here, that sort of thing. Um, but the most important thing, as I'm just going back to some of the things I've already said, you've got to be relentless. You've got to keep posting. So two or three times a week when you're in the run up to your event, you've got to make sure you keep putting it out because different people are going to see your different posts. So sometimes you can think, oh, people are ignoring my posts. They've not seen it. You've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. They just haven't seen it. And also, and I recognize myself with this. Sometimes you can see someone's post, read it, think, right, I'm going to donate to them when I get paid, or I'm going to donate to them later, and then you forget. And then once it's gone out of my head, it's gone forever. But if I see that person post again and it comes up on my feed, it reminds me. Sometimes it can take 3 goes before I finally get around to doing it. I'd imagine with some people it could take 10 goes. So just don't be afraid of posting.
And another question from Sharmini. She says, what about writing letters or emails to get funding?
I think certain people, if I know quite a few people who aren't on social media, so they've got to try something different. So emailing friends, I would say the most important thing with that is make it personal. So don't write one email and then mass send it to 100 people. because they'll look at it and go, it's spam, or is this even the person? Put something personal in there. The body of the email can be the same, but make sure the first paragraph says something about the person so they know that you're writing to them personally. Because when you write to someone personally, there's more pressure on them to respond. Whereas when you just send out a mass email, it's easy to ignore. So it's a good thing to do, Sharmini. Karen?
Can you hear me? I don't know if my mic's working.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I just wondered what's the best way to publicise an event, because obviously when I was raising funds, when I was doing the walk last year, I did a clothes swap. We did a joint clothes swap with my colleague Georgina, and we did the usual, put it out on Facebook. We did posters, put them in local shops, but we only got about 15 people that came in the end. We did raise some money. It was about £400, but obviously we were hoping for a better turnout, and I just wondered if there was if I'd missed something else out, any way to publicise things better when you're organising something.
It's a difficult one because some people know loads of people and it just takes on a life of its own. I don't really know that many people. And I mean, I know a lot of people. Most of them now in my life are rep families who live all around the UK. But you know, I live in an area now where I'm not from. So I don't know that many people around here. So if I tried to do something here, it would spectacularly fail. So I would say it's a case of posting more. Do what Tanya said. If you've got some kind of event going on, it's something you could send through Messenger so that people get it directly into their inbox rather than you're relying on people to actually see it. And none of us have any idea of who's seen it and who hasn't, unless they've liked it or commented on it. And also, this is important, though it doesn't sound it. When you're making a picture for something like that, keep the text to a minimum. Have all the text on the post that you're putting out, and hardly any text or no text on the actual picture, because Facebook algorithms look at things with text on and go, it's spam. We're not going to share that with people unless you pay for an advert, which you can't do as an individual. And paying for an advert, as far as the charity is concerned, is just not worth the money.
No, thanks for that. I will try what Tanya suggests next time.
Yeah, I'm going to do that as well.
Another good idea is to put it in your email signature as well. So colleagues and friends and family can see it on that.
Right.
Yeah, I do that. And you get donations sometimes from people who you just don't expect. I got one. I remember getting one from someone who came and measured us up for some wardrobes. Just you know, a salesman, and he donated 20 quid for something I was doing just from the email signature. So yeah, that's another good one, just to nudge people and remind people. Ben?
Brilliant.
Ben, you're on mute if you've got a question.
Oh yeah.
Hiya, mate.
Nice to see you. I can't see me, but I think you can see me. I don't know. Hi, Andy.
I saw you briefly there, but you've gone again.
Oh yeah. Great session. Thanks a lot. I had some oh my God. I had some thoughts. One was Facebook settings. Mine is locked down. So if I do a post on Facebook for fundraising, then I have to remember to make it public. So that's really important.
It is really important, and I just did it just before this this workshop, because I've got mine set to just friends.
Yeah.
And people write to you and go, I can't share your post, so you can make each post individual post public.
Yeah. And then linked to that is I think I've said to you before, I've been using LinkedIn, and I do have got a lot of followers on LinkedIn, but I found that LinkedIn seems to get me right up the Google rankings. So if I Google my name, I've got at least 2 or 3 fundraising things on there. So there seems to be some combination between Facebook and LinkedIn, which helps with Google. And actually, some people who sponsored me for the Ultra last year just Googled it and found it. So there's definitely something that works there.
Yeah, LinkedIn's a bit of a mystery for us. I mean, I've done a training course on LinkedIn, but they want people to post as individuals. So as a charity itself, that's why I was on it.
Yeah.
Didn't really work. You have to do it yourself, but I've never found that any other platform gets donations other than Facebook. I've only ever got donations through Facebook. I used to be quite prolific on Twitter. I never got one donation. I'm not on it now. I'm on Instagram, but I've never really got a lot from there, just the odd thing. Facebook's the one, but that's interesting. I think if that's the one that you use, that's the one that you should focus on, because if you're interacting on there, whereas I never really did on LinkedIn. I found it quite difficult. I think it's working out where you're at.
Yeah.
If that's the best one for you, then do you push on there?
I think that's right. I think there will be people who've got big professional profile and lots of followers on LinkedIn and vice versa. So so that definitely worked for me. And then another one which came up in the I think it was in the fundraising group, is that my employer has got a community fund, and all you had to do was to apply to it. And I didn't know anything about it until someone told me. So when I was doing the Ultra last year, in about May, I came across it and literally submitted a 200-word application, and then they gave us £1,000
Wow.
for it. But they've got a pot of money which they give out to causes of the month sort of thing. So I was one of several who got that funding. So that's well worth thinking about for people if they work for a big employer.
Yeah. There's a lot of companies do match funding. It used to more or less just be banks, but now there's a lot of companies. We get quite a lot of. They match up to a certain amount. So match whatever you raise. So it's for anyone watching. It's always worth finding out if your workplace does something like that, or any of your friends that are doing some fundraising alongside you. Find out if their company does it, because there's lots of different ways of raising a little bit more.
And then this year, I'm going to do stuff like tap up my dentist, because I figure I spend quite a lot of money at places like the dental surgery. So I'm thinking I'm going to taking a QR code or a card or something for the Ultra. So that's where I'm going to try this year. Some places that I go to, spend money and try and get them to return the favour.
That's a great idea.
So that was a thought.
We have got the thanks to you, we have got the QR code going on the new batch of t-shirts. So
brilliant. And that was my final point, Andy, because what I'm going to do this year for the Lake District Ultra is train more in my reverse ret t-shirt. Because I met an older lady yesterday who was going off to her yoga class, and I did a 25k run, got back to the car and was literally, sort of almost vomiting, hanging over the bonnet. And she asked me what I was training for. And I think, had I had the t-shirt on and the QR code, you never know, she might have sponsored. So that's definitely another trick I'm going to do this year, train in it and, just see if I can drum up a bit of support.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, you do get people when they see the t-shirt asking you what it is.
Yeah.
In the gym and things like that. So if the QR code's there, just say, scan this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're straight there.
Yeah. So that's it. Nice one. Thanks a lot, Andy. A really great session. And I've got loads of...
Thanks for your input. It's really, really helpful.
Oh, yeah. Welcome. Yeah, I've got loads of tips from you as well. I'm going to start my Just Giving page later. So watch out for that on Facebook in the next couple of weeks. Cheers.
All right. Cheers, Ben.
Cheers.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for asking those questions and for giving those tips. I'm sure they will help lots of us. Anything else before we wrap up? The final thing I wanted to say to everyone is we are having another Leap Day in June in Manchester. It's going to be expanded to 2 days, and we're going to have some kind of get together on the Saturday night. So the Eventbrite page is open. now for people to get their tickets. And we have all the doctors lined up, ready to talk about what's happening and the latest news with everything, and more besides. Just there's going to be more things from last year added on from last year, some health messaging and things like that. So if any of you want to come to Manchester in June, get your tickets at Eventbrite. Wesley is going to put the link in the chat, I think.
Yeah, I will do. Are you going to get your feet out at the event, Andy?
Potentially. I'm happy to get the feet out anytime that it's going to raise money. Okay, brilliant. Thank you everyone for coming, and I hope to see you on a challenge soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.